Okay, so this is one of those episodes where we have two kind of separate things to talk about. Obviously, we've got the crazy revelations and the what the hell is going on parts to talk about, the most exciting parts to talk about, but also, I think it would be a disservice to the episode itself if we did not first spend some time talking about the Interstellar Song Contest and, the main plot of the episode. But first, allow me to just... Okay, cool. Let's continue. So for those of you who may not be aware, the Interstellar Song Contest is a play on Eurovision, which is currently occurring. And while I do have friends who love Eurovision and follow it, I am someone who is aware of it, grew up kind of watching it. I had those late night experiences of being allowed to stay up late to vote. Like Belinda said, I basically have that same childhood lived experience. I am fond of it, at least, when it's not giving voice to certain countries which are doing unspeakable atrocities. But honestly, my hype for this episode wasn't really stoked until Russell T Davies yesterday put out a thing being like, avoid social media until you watch the episode, and I went, oh, it's one of those episodes. What's gonna happen? But as I mentioned, first we're talking about the episode itself, and even without all the crazy revelations, I had a bloody great time watching this episode. This was just a solid episode, in my opinion. Firstly, I really liked how dramatic it was, the stakes with everyone being blown through the roof of the space station. The shot of them all drifting outwards into space was legitimately haunting and beautiful. And I like that in this episode we kind of had similar vibes to Rose on the second episode of Series 1, The End of the World, where Belinda's kind of like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. I don't even know where I am, and she really starts to panic. I thought that was very realistic and interesting. But also it's kind of a culmination of what we've seen throughout the entire series, which is a really interesting arc for a companion, which is someone who doesn't really want to be there, turning into someone who actually does appreciate traveling with the Doctor and realizes, or I guess feels that, yes, he is wonderful. I've come to really like him. And yet also in this episode we see a dark side of the Doctor. We see him really angry, and I have to say, this might be my one wrinkle with the episode. As a big fan of the Time Lord Victorious arc, for instance, during Tennant's era, I love exploring the darker side of the Doctor, and I don't think this episode did it that well. I've said in previous episodes how much I have loved Ncuti's ability to show this cold rage, this cold-stoked anger, the fury of a Time Lord side of the Doctor, but I don't think it really came out in this episode until the very end when he had the glove. But honestly, I feel like we were told how angry the Doctor was more than we were shown it, if that makes sense, until the glove portion. I know, he literally tortured the bad guy and said he was going to kill him and stuff, but I don't know, just the threats he made over the intercom and stuff as well, they just didn't really land for me. I don't know, maybe I'm being too nitpicky here. I think my problem was, as much as I liked the plot with the Hellions, was it? And I thought that was well written, by the way. The villain himself didn't feel like he had the presence and the gravitas enough to trigger that much of what I guess was presented as a permanent shift in the Doctor's behaviour. Because the Doctor tells him, you've put a sliver of ice in my heart and I don't think it will ever go away. And I'm thinking there are so many other things which have and should have done that. I mean, I know the stakes, right? He was trying to kill 3 trillion people. Obviously, the Doctor's very angry with him, and he mentions later in the episode it was a trigger response for him because it reminded him of his own people who had all died in a very similar fashion, instantaneously or whatever. And of course, that's going to have interesting parallels to whatever we're going to be walking into next week as well with the human race, as Graham Norton became the harbinger of doom, which I don't think anyone expected him to be in this episode. I liked it though, he did it well. But yeah, I think he should already have the anger. I don't know if that rando punk Hellion terrorist guy should have been the one to put that in his heart. I think that should have already been there from more of a character of note. Does that make sense? Let me know if I'm making sense. But I actually really did like the plotline with the Hellions and their planet and the corporation and what they had done to their planet and the kind of prejudices that they faced. I thought it felt very true to life in how people... how prejudice actually works and how people spread rumors about what a certain subset of group of people are like, and just how untrue it is, and how they force those people into being ashamed of who they are, and so on and so forth. I thought the song at the end was legitimately moving, and just like as a baseline plot for an episode, I think Juno Dawson, the writer of this episode, did a fantastic job, and I would really like to see more episodes from her. Now, with all that being said, Susan! Susan! I sat bolt upright in my chair. Susan! I recognized her instantly, thankfully. I think partially because of the Big Finish audio dramas. I haven't listened to them yet. I do want to. Maybe I should bump that up on my maybe I should do that for next week. But I've seen the trailers of those audiobooks, and I've seen like the covers of them and stuff. So I am aware of what Carol Ann Ford looks like nowadays. Because if you're not aware, it's been a while since we last saw Susan. Last time we saw her, she was in black and white. And as someone who has watched through the first Doctor's era, I am now so grateful that I have done so, because this isn't just like a fun throwback of like, oh wow, we're going to go back and meet the Doctor's granddaughter again and see what that's like. For me, it's actually like a returning character, and I am so intrigued to see what they're going to do with this, because the Doctor is, as Peter Capaldi's Doctor once mentioned, a bit like the ship of Theseus at this point. He has changed so much that you have to wonder, are they going to address how much the Doctor's changed as a person, and how that's going to affect his relationship with his granddaughter, assuming he is going to go and meet her now? I really hope they don't brush past it too much. I know they're Time Lords and stuff, and it is part of their culture, and it's something that they expect, but I would also like to explore that part of their culture, and explore how the relationship evolves and changes. So much has happened since these last two characters met, and I guess, to be fair, she did meet the Eighth Doctor. I really do need to go and listen to that. One also has to wonder how important that is going to be, because most viewers will not have listened to that. So do you skirt past it? Do you make a brief mention to it? How much does it affect the whole, we haven't seen each other in so long aspect of things? My guess is we're still going to have that, but the lore accurate aspect of that dialogue is going to be referring to when she saw him as the Eighth Doctor, but they're going to keep it vague enough that people who don't even know that audio drama exists are going to think it's referring to when she saw him as the First Doctor, which might make it feel a little weird. I don't know. This is probably the reason Susan hasn't come back in so long, because how the hell do you write this? But that wasn't the only thing. The Rani. Oh my goodness, the Rani. Okay, so I have never watched the era of classic Doctor Who which deals with the Rani. All I really know the Rani as is a speculation as to Missy's identity that inflamed the Doctor Who subreddit 10 or 15 years ago, or however long ago that was now. And I got caught up in wanting it, even though I didn't know what it was I was wanting. I know. Character flaw. Working on it. Worked on it. We'll say worked on it. But now I'm slightly concerned of well, how am I going to feel about this Time Lord that I've never met? How are they going to differ from the Master? We were talking, me and my friends, about the identity of Mrs. Flood the other day, and one of my friends said that she thought she was the Master. And I said, and my parents were talking about this as well, because my parents watched Doctor Who. They also said that she's probably the Master. But I was like, I don't know. She just doesn't feel like the Master. She's too fourth wall breaking. The Master isn't that. And she's too, I don't know, she's hiding away and stuff. And I feel quite vindicated to now be told that, yes, she's not the Master, she's the Rani. I doubt the fourth wall breaking is something the Rani did previously, though, so I will be curious to see why that's happening. I'm hoping it's not just a stylistic choice, because it feels like something that's important. I still think it's linked back to the Pantheon of Gods. Maybe the Rani had something to do with, being around them, or seeing from outside the universe because she got abducted by one of them. I don't fucking know. I don't write this show. But I do wonder if we're going to get one of those Tales from the TARDIS episodes just to brush us all up on who she is. And if so, I will absolutely be watching that out of sequence because I think it'll be important. But it's just so exciting with the reintroduction of Susan and the Rani. The show feels more cohesive than ever. It's not classic Who and New Who, it's just Doctor Who. You start to see why they made such a big push to put all the Doctor Who episodes up on iPlayer last year now. But it's not just the Rani, it's not just Mrs. Flood is the Rani, it's Mrs. Flood bi-generated. Not just regenerated, bi-generated, and now there's the Rani and a Rani. Mrs. Flood being a Rani who is subservient to the Rani. That's interesting. Is this a quirk of Time Lord culture that we do not yet know about? Is there a feeling of whenever this extremely rare bi-generation phenomenon happens, is it then like there's a hierarchy of different iterations existing at the same time in how they treat each other? I guess that might be something that's more of a personal choice than a far-reaching cultural choice. I don't know. Part of me does think it's a shame that Mrs. Flood has been built up all this time and now she's just in henchman status, but, you know. It's also interesting that it was a bi-generation. They're supposed to be extremely rare. In fact, they're supposed to be like a myth. The fact that it happened to the Doctor is something that was never really truly explained. It was more of a plot thing. And so I wonder if we are now going back and scrutinizing that and looking at it and kind of examining it and going, well, what happens when someone does bi-generate? What does that mean for the previous iteration and the current iteration? Does the current iteration actually have memories of the previous iteration that the previous iteration has yet to have at the time of bi-generation? You know, there's all these nitty-gritty details which I have questions about, which I wasn't sure we were ever going to get the answers to, but now I'm actually starting to think we might. I mean, if you want to go full tinfoil hat, and this is a Doctor Who speculation, so of course I'm going to go full tinfoil hat, you could maybe wonder if we're going to bring the 14th Doctor back for this upcoming finale, given that we're dealing with the specifics of bi-generation in this sense. And I have actually been against the idea of the 14th Doctor returning. I didn't think it was going to happen. I still mostly don't think it's going to happen. But there is now a point in my other column of thinking whether it may or may not happen. I'm now going, oh, okay, I could see that maybe it might. Especially since it's the 20th anniversary of New Who. But at some point, we've got to bring Matt Smith back. I love David Tennant. I love David Tennant to death, but we need Matt Smith back and Peter Capaldi and Christopher Eccleston. Oh, please mend that bridge. Please do whatever you can to mend that bridge. Christopher Eccleston is such an important part of the show. But yeah, there's also something to be said about the idea of, well, we suddenly have two Time Ladies on screen. We have the Rani, well, I guess we have three. We have the Rani, a Rani, and we have Susan. So maybe we're going to be revisiting the idea that all of the Time Lords went extinct off screen when the Master killed them all, apparently all in a single instant second. We still don't know how the Master did this. I wonder if Russell T Davies wants to go back and establish how, and establish whether any survived, and establish if it can be fixed or solved or reversed. I am a little concerned about constantly killing off a Time Lords, bringing them back, killing them off, bringing them back. It is a bit goofy, and you get the impression of showrunners yanking ideas back and forth from each other, similarly to the bloody Star Wars sequel trilogy, which we all know was dire. But I don't know, maybe we are going and exploring these kind of like glossed over parts of the show's recent history. But then if we're talking about the end of Gallifrey, then we're gonna have to bring the Master back, probably, to talk about that in some detail, probably. So yeah, there are so many directions this could go. There are so many directions this could go, and I don't know if it will all be resolved by the end of this season. They might be setting things up for the future, but then the future, as we all know, is very cloudy at the minute because we don't even know if Disney are going to continue their deal with BBC for Doctor Who for season 3. Obviously, you don't have to listen to tabloids and believe the bullshit they spew. I think Doctor Who will be just fine even if they don't renew the Disney agreement. It's one of the most valuable properties the BBC has these days, after all. I would be more concerned about the fate of Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor than anything, because if the deal doesn't continue, then we're probably, you know, we've been waiting a long time without filming, and Ncuti Gatwa probably wants to get on with other projects, so that's something to keep in mind. But I think that's it. I think that's everything I had my thoughts on. I'm so sad I wasn't just naturally recording. I didn't have my 30-second DVR recording on, because when Susan popped up on screen, my reaction was literally like the 10th Doctor going, What? What? I'm so excited to see where they go with this. I am a little a little hesitant. I do remember last season, this time last year, if it was this time last year when we last aired this, when we were about the same point in the season and I was getting really excited about upcoming plot points. And then, I mean, if you go back and look at my Empire of Death, thoughts on episode title, I called it How to Punish Curiosity. So that's how I felt about those particular plot revelations. But part of that was the constant Mrs. Flood teasing not being paid off, and part of that was the Susan teasing not being paid off, and now we've got both of those. So yeah, hopefully we're actually getting somewhere now. But anyway, that's what I thought about this episode. Thank you very much for stopping by and listening to my rambling thoughts. Hats off to Juno Dawson. I really do hope they bring her back to write more episodes. And I will catch you in whatever I make next.